Peace and shalom, family. It's your brother Divine Prospect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and I'm here with a Sabbath empowerment lesson for May 15th, 2021. All right. This is a great lesson that I think you will enjoy. I'm going to try to make it as short and sweet as possible, but there will be some scripture reading, so bear with me. All right. The name of this lesson is called Be Careful What You Whine For. I know sometimes use the idiom, be careful what you wish for, but in this case, be careful what you whine for. All right. So let's define the word whine, all right? In Webster Dictionary, it reads to make a high complaining sound or to complain continuously, all right? A good usage that they have in here as an example is if you whine, especially as a child, you complain or express disappointment or unhappiness repeatedly, all right? Dictionary.com reads a feeble, peevish complaint. Feeble means weak, right? And peevish means something that is irritable or irritating, right? Or annoying, all right? With this definition in mind, let's see why we should avoid this attitude towards the Most High, all right? Let's go to Numbers chapter 11, verse 4. And it reads, now the rabble, and that's referring to the Gentiles that was amongst them, or the mixed multitude, etc., that was among them had a strong craving. And the people of Israel also wept again and said, oh, that we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt that cost nothing. The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. You think about this, say, wow, that sounds like some good stuff, right? But now our strength is dried up. And there is nothing at all but this manna to look at. Moses heard the people weeping throughout their clans, everyone at the door of his tent, and the anger of Yod-Heh-Wav blazed hotly, and Moshe was displeased. Then a wind from Yod-Heh-Wav sprang up, and it brought quail from the sea and let them fall beside the camp, about a day's journey on this side and a day's journey on the other side around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the ground. That's a lot of quail, right? And the people rose all that day and all night and all the next day and gathered the quail. Those who gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. While the meat was yet between their teeth, before it was consumed, the anger of Yod-Heh-Wav was kindled against the people, and Yod-Heh-Wav struck down the people with a great plague. This attitude caused them more harm than good. This is because Yah redeemed them because he heard their complaints. Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 to 25. In Egypt, and delivered them so they can serve him and be rewarded. However, they quickly forgot the miracles performed to redeem them from the Egyptians and only focused on their natural needs and not the supernatural ones. They were so distracted by the behavior of insistent complaining that they didn't realize how habitual it had become. This wilderness experience was supposed to transform their character so they would be obedient to Yah and trust him. And this is why he took them out of Egypt, out of the land in which they were doing all this hard labor, and given them rest or relief. So during that period of Salah, they can focus on the divine, on the supernatural, on the Most High, to see what he requires of them and what he's willing to give in return. Well, Moses also confirmed this later on in his life. In Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 1, he says, be careful to obey every command I give you today. Then you will live and your population will increase. You will enter and take possession of the land that the Lord promised to your ancestors with an oath. Remember that for 40 years, the Most High, your power, led you on your journey in the desert. He did this in order to humble you and test you. That's important. He wanted to know whether or not you would wholeheartedly obey his commands. So he made you suffer from hunger and then fed you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had seen before. He did this to teach you that a person cannot live on bread alone, but on every word that the Most High speaks. We see that the root of this idiom or phrase is here in Torah. Your clothes didn't wear out and your feet didn't swell these past 40 years. Learn this lesson by heart. The Most High, your power, was disciplining you as parents discipline their children. Remember one of the definitions for whine, and it's typically a high-pitched crying sound from a child who is always, not satisfied, and they continuously annoy their parents about it. Obey the commands of the Most High your power, follow his directions, and fear him. So even though we have a situation where we see what happens to them, they incessantly whine and complain, and they grumble, and they want all the things that made them fat while they was in the land, while they complained. See, a lot of times we may get something that the Most High has done a wondrous miracle to provide us. We get it, and we get so used to accustomed of it with the thing that we tend to forget about him because we're seeking the hand and not the face. So when we get this thing, we complain when it's taken away from us. And we want more. We want something bigger and greater. And we don't realize that sometimes the Most High has to remove these things so that way we can refocus our attention back on him, the thing, the one who provides, and not the thing that was provided. That's important. So that is that wilderness experience that sometimes that you may have to go through because you have become too attached to the gift and not the giver. Okay. All right. So understanding this history, right? We see Moses was displeased. So later on in life, he said this thing to them so that they can remember this. And the good news is they had descendants that kept this in mind. A remnant of them, because the majority of them were still rebellious, stiff-necked, hard-headed, and this is why the Israelites were driven out the land. But there was still a remnant that remembered this. So let's look into this real quick. So in Psalm chapter 77, verse 11 to 12, this is the good news that we have to take into account today. And it says, I will remember the deeds of the Most High. I will remember your ancient miracles. I will reflect on all your actions and think about what you have done. When we see that there's a desire or a wish that we have, instead of whining and complaining, let's take a moment to give Yah his due. And in the process, then he may add to us the thing that we are desiring. Another good way to sum up everything we just read in the book of Numbers and the book of Devarim, or Bamidbar and Devarim, or Numbers and Deuteronomy, is to look at Psalm 78, all right, verses 1 to 7 and verses 10 to 38. Now that's a pretty decent read, but I'm going to read it because when I read it, you'll see the reflection, right? The salah, the meditation that goes on to those who understand that if I learn from the mistakes of my ancestors and I turn towards Yah and I'm obedient to him, and in the process of obedience, I garner a relationship with him, then he will give me the things that I ask for if I truly need them. So let's go to Psalm chapter 78, verses 1 to 7. All right. And it reads, give ear, O my people, to my instruction. Listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden from the beginning that we have heard and known and our fathers have relayed to us, oral traditions, right? We will not hide them from their children, but will declare to the next generation the praises of Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh and his might and the wonders he has performed. Big him up. For he established a testimony to Yaakov and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach their children, that the coming generation would know them, even children yet to be born, to arise and tell their own children, that they should put their confidence in the Most High, not forgetting his works, but keeping his commandments. Then they will not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation whose heart was not loyal, whose spirit was not faithful to the Most High. They failed to keep the Most High's covenant and refused to live by his law. They forgot what he had done, the wonders he had shown them. He worked wonders before their fathers in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zoan. He split the sea and broke them through. He set the waters upright like a wall. He led them by a cloud by day and a light of fire at night. He split the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as abundant as the seas. He brought streams from the stone and made water flow down like rivers. But they continued to sin against him, rebelling in the desert against the Most High. They willfully tested the Most High by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against the Most High, saying, can Most High really prepare a table in the wilderness? When he struck the rock, water gushed out in torrents rage. But can he also give bread or supply his people with meat? Therefore, the Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh heard and was filled with wrath. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and his anger fled against Israel, because they did not believe or rely on his salvation. Yet he commanded the clouds above and opened the doors of the heavens. He rained down manna for them to eat. He gave them grain from heaven. Men ate the bread of angels. They didn't even realize the sustenance that he was providing them. He sent them food in abundance. He stirred the east wind from the heavens and drove the south wind by his might. He rained meat on them like dust and winged birds like the sand of the sea. He felled them in the midst of their camp, all around their dwellings, so they ate and were filled, for he gave them what they craved. Yet, before they had filled their desire, with the food still in their mouths, the Most High's anger fled against them, and he put to death their strongest and subdued the young men of Israel. In spite of all of this, they kept on sinning. Despite his wonderful works, they did not believe. So he ended their days in futility and their years in sudden terror. When he slew them, they would seek him. They repented and searched for the Most High, and they remembered the Most High power was their rock. The God Most High was their Redeemer, but they deceived him with their mouths and lied to him with their tongues. Their hearts were disloyal to him, and they were unfaithful to his covenant. And yet he was compassionate. He forgave their iniquity and did not destroy them. He often restrained his anger and did not unleash his full wrath, because he remembered that they were but flesh and a passing breeze that does not return. So the psalmist goes down into the final verses and says in verse 70, he chose David his servant and took him from his sheepfolds. David was in tending sheep. He was not a great prince or a king or from a royal family or from the upper echelon society or from the elites. He was a shepherd, a pastoralist, a humble individual, but through his small experience and trusted in Yah had delivered him from bears and lions while he was tending sheep. And took somebody that humble from tending the ewes, he brought him to be shepherd of his people, Jacob of Israel, his inheritance. So David shepherded them with integrity of heart and guided them with skillful hands. So the thing that the Most High had blessed David with, based on him being humble and trusting Yah with his limited experience, he gave him an entire kingdom. And what did David do? He shepherded the thing the Most High gave him with integrity of heart. The things that Yah gives us based on our obedience to him, not our whining and complaining, are we becoming good stewards over that? That is an important question that we need to reflect on and see. All right? So where does that leave us today? Are we becoming insistently whining towards Yah over trivial things that we want and we desire? And in the process, forget the wondrous things he has already done for us and the things he has already given us. Some of y'all might say, man, God gave me this car. Man, I got a car. I want this car. I want that car. Man, you know, the Most High gave me this good person, but I want a person that looks like this. I want a person that looks like that. Oh, my job, the Most High gave me this job, but you know what? I want to leave that job, and I want this, I want that. Or he took me away from that job, and now he's giving me this job. And it's not even a job I want. Why did you do this, Most High? Why did you take me from this person and give me this person? Why did you take me from this job and give me this job? Why did you take me from this house, this car? Why did you do this, and I got this before, and now I'm here? The question is he's trying to get your attention, but are you paying attention? What do our prayers reflect? A heart of praise and thankfulness to Yah, or one of grief and complaint? Sometimes we receive the thing we whine about the most, but then it turns out to not be for our good, but only to be a lesson to teach us that everything we may want is not always best for us. And that very thing that we desire may be the very thing to entrap us and be our doom and demise. Trust Yah today. Obey his commandments. Praise his character, and you will see that a relationship with him is far greater reward than anything you may want on this earth. And if we continue to seek the face of the giver, then we'll have the gifts that is in his hands. And he brings mighty gifts. Those gifts will only be a benefit and not the real pursuit. And the thing is, he has to take these things out sometimes to test your heart. Sometimes you need a character readjustment. Sometimes there are things in you that need to be squeezed, or you need to be squeezed in order for those things to come out so you can see what's there, you can address them, and then now you can thank Yah for the test. Okay. All right. So, Through those relationships that we continuously have with the Most High, we will receive the benefits of having all our needs met. And if we don't want to take that for face value, let's hear what David had to say, since he was mentioned in the psalm we read. And he says in Psalm 37 and 26, I once was young and now I'm old, yet never have I seen the righteous abandoned or forsaken, or their children or their seed begging for bread. And later on in history, his descendant Yeshua bar Yosef came along and confirmed in Matthew chapter 6 verse 33, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, the Most High's, and all these things will be given to you as well. And I say this for you to salah, for you to meditate and reflect, to understand that sometimes, even though we think we did have it good, when we are taken from those things, when those things are taken from us, that is a test to see if we are more dependent and attached to the things that we are given than the giver himself. Let's restore our relationship back with Yah. Let's thank him for everything that he has given us and have a heart of thankfulness and praise for all the wondrous things he has done, for his character, for his compassion, that he has not destroyed us in our incessant whining. But let's continue to receive the rewards that are due us based on our diligent obedience to his statute, laws, and commandments, and learning the heart and mind of Yah. And when he has given us something, be good stewards over those things. Because when they are lost, that season of wilderness is that season for the test. And once it's passed, he will restore us 1,000-fold. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this message. Please, if you're brand new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you share this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up. And I'll see you again. Peace and shalom.